because I intend to talk about even investments, why you should do real estate and not all these buying shares in bank. Because I lost about 200 million in Nigerian banks, bought 200 million naira worth of shares and didn't sell it for 30 million. If I had used that money to buy land, I don't even need to cut the grass.
Hey guys, my name is Tito and I make videos on personal finance each week. Please consider subscribing. Now, Pastor Matthew Ashimolowo, many of you know him. He's a great man of God with an international ministry and he's a thought leader as well. Well, recently in an interview, he made a shocking revelation. Pastor Matthew said that he's lost around 200 million naira investing in the shares of Nigerian banks. Now, in this video, I'm going to be talking about how I think that happened and what I think Pastor Matthew could have done differently. Now, if you want to watch the full interview, you can click the card in the corner of the screen or check the description box below where I've linked the interview from the Eden Oasis YouTube channel. But for now, let's head back to the interview to get some more details from Pastor Matthew.
The Nigerian shares space, I have suffered. I wouldn't touch it. I notice all over the place, the banks are now calling for people to buy shares, and many will buy. Hear my story. And I'll mention banks. There's nothing they can do because it's not a lie. I bought for 36 million naira, first bank, at 36 naira per share. Wow. It fell to 12 naira. Lost that. I went and borrowed 60 million in 2005 or 6 from Sterling Bank to buy Sky Bank shares. It fell from 18 to 2 naira, from 14 to 2 naira 50 kobo.
Wow.
Washed away. Sterling Bank showed up in our office with 4 policemen to come and collect their money. I had to look for that money within 2-3 months. I bought GTB. I've been banking with them since 1993. I bought GTB for something like 18 naira. GTB fell to 3 naira 60 kobo.
I think they're selling now at 44 naira.
Yeah, they are all back again to buy, to sell again. All those monies I told you I lost. Imagine if 20 years ago I'd used them to buy land. At the time I got that 60 million to buy Sky, that was the cost of a plot in Banana. So while I lost my money, Banana will have become 1.something billion.
Now, in that clip, Pastor Matthew said that he bought First Bank shares, Sky Bank shares, and GT Bank shares, right? He said he bought 36 million naira worth of First Bank shares, and at some point after that, it went as low as 12 naira per share, which is a third of what he bought it at. That's crazy, right? Today, August of 2024, First Bank holding shares are selling at around 22 naira per share. So if he still had those shares today, he'd still be at a loss because he bought at 36, but today it's selling at around 22. So, you know. Now, the one I want to focus on is the GT Co shares, or the GT Bank shares that he said he bought at 18 naira per share. We don't know when exactly he sold or how much he sold the shares at, but from all indications, Pastor Matthew made a loss when he sold those shares. And I'm not doubting what Pastor Matthew said. What I'm trying to bring out from all this is what could have led to him selling at a loss. Because in the case of the GT Bank shares, if he had still held on to those shares till today, he'd be at a profit since he bought at 18 naira. But as at today, GT Bank shares are selling at around 45 naira. So if he still had those shares, he'd be around 150% in profit if he still had the GT Bank shares today. The point that I believe Pastor Matthew was making was how, in his opinion, real estate is a safer and higher yielding investment than the shares of Nigerian banks. And he gave that testimony of how he lost money investing in Nigerian banks to support his argument. Now, I'm not saying that Pastor Matthew is wrong, but I think that Pastor Matthew only really realized a loss from those shares because he sold those shares lower than what he bought them at. Had he maybe waited a bit longer or had the opportunity to wait a bit longer, maybe those shares would have appreciated and he would have made a profit from those shares. Now, if you watch the full interview, you'll know that Pastor Matthew probably had to sell those shares under, tough circumstances, because like he said in that clip, he took a loan from one bank to buy the shares of another bank. So maybe in an effort to pay off his debtors, he had to sell most of his shares, and when he did, those shares were selling at a lower price than what he bought them at. And that's what I want to base today's video on. How you only technically make a loss from an investment if you sell that investment at a price that's lower than what you bought it for. Because this is something that lots of people worry about, and it's something that discourages people from investing, especially investing in the stock market. They worry that if they were to buy shares in a company, after some time, what would happen if those shares go down? Will they stay down forever, and will they now lose money? That may not necessarily be the case. Even if they go down, after a while they may appreciate or they may go up again, especially if you've invested in those stocks for the long term. And by long term, I mean for a period exceeding a year before deciding to sell those stocks. If, for example, today I buy shares in a company, let's say Apple, for $100, right? And then in exactly a year's time, the value of those shares drops to like $70. I would only make a loss if I were to sell it at that point when it's $70. But if I wait it out, if I hold on, and maybe a year after that, the stock market improves or the company does really well and the value of my shares goes up to, let's say, $120, and then at that point I decide to sell, then it's all good. I would have even made a profit at that point. Now, I'm not saying that if the price of a stock goes down, it's guaranteed to go back up at some point. No, the stock market does not work like that. Sometimes the values of some shares, they go down and they never recover. What I'm saying is, if you notice that the value of your stocks or your investment begins to drop, don't necessarily be in a haste to sell them off because you're trying to manage your losses, right? You might actually want to wait it out and see if it will pick up again and appreciate over time, especially if you are a long-term investor. Now, this conversation reminds me of a company that I invested in not too long ago, and that the investment performed terribly. I kept on putting money into it and buying shares in that company until I decided it didn't make sense to do so anymore. I'm going to talk about that investment and the lessons I learned from it in a future video. I can't wait to do that particular video. If you enjoyed this video, guys, please do me a favor and like it by clicking on the like button just underneath the video, and subscribe to this channel as well by clicking on the black subscribe button. My name is Tito. Thank you once again for watching, and remember that I remain invested in your success. Take care.